Who has better athletes, the NBA or the NFL? This is Dr. David Chao, Pro Football Doc at Sports Injury Central. I've covered basketball, covered football. Austin Rivers' comments about 30 NBA players could play in the NFL, but you couldn't get 30 NFL players to play in the NBA has ignited a lot of controversy. To me, no real controversy. I'm a fan of both. The NBA has great athletes, the NFL has great athletes. These are the greatest athletes in the world. They're all professional athletes, and I respect both. But the argument, I think, has gone sideways in terms of which maybe claiming that NBA are better athletes, that's why they could go play in the NFL. It's, even if that were true, and it may be true, that it's an easier transition from the NBA for certain athletes to the NFL than NFL to the NBA. It doesn't mean that they're better athletes. Let me explain. The types of sports are just different. Clearly, Gates was a basketball player in college and played football, had a great career. Gonzalez chose to play football, Tony Gonzalez over basketball. Basketball is a very tough sport. As Marcellus Wiley said, and we talked when I was on his show, that if he had the choice of playing basketball or football, he would, of course, have chosen basketball. But he didn't have a choice, and that's why he agrees with Austin Rivers. I look at it this way. If you have a choice, great, but it's hard to have a choice. The sports are entirely different. The sport of basketball is entirely different. Football is a very specialized sport. It is easier to learn and adapt and use a specialized skill set to play one position on a football field in a specialized situation than it is to take someone and put them on a basketball court and play both ends, offense, defense, but know the flow of the game. Football is a game that's played with a huddle, quote, pseudo mini timeout. Here's the play call, you go do it. And football has lots of specialization. The edge pass rusher on third down, the nickel corner, the third down back, etc. Basketball may have a three-point shooter, but even that three-point shooter has to play defense. This is why it's a lot harder to adopt to play basketball, because it is a continuous flow all around game, whereas football is set pieces. Let's take rugby as an example. I was a team physician for USA Rugby for a number of years, worked some World Cup matches, etc. And people often said, what's harder, football or rugby? And people from around the world often say, oh, we're worried about Americans. Why don't you take your best college linebackers that don't make the NFL or college running backs and turn them into rugby players? The problem is rugby is a very innate game. There's a lot of flow, where to go. There are very few set pieces or timeouts. You just have to play offense, defense, and know the flow of the game. Much like basketball. You can take the best athlete in the world who's never played basketball before, jump through the roof, even shoot and so forth, but spacing will be an issue. Rugby players have had some success in the NFL. Jordan Mailata has signed a big contract for the Eagles. There are other examples too. Jared Haim for the 49ers. And this year there are 5 or 6 rugby players that are signed trying to make NFL teams. A great athlete is more easily converted into a specialized game of football than a great football player to the more all-around game of basketball. That doesn't make one a better athlete over the other. Let's put it this way. If football wanted to get a bunch of these high leapers to be back shoulder pass catchers, it wouldn't be that hard to have a specialized back shoulder pass catcher. You can high point the ball over a 5'10" corner pretty easily when you're 6'9" and can jump through the roof. So it's the specialized game of football that makes the basketball transition easier. Of course, will they like the contact is a different story. I actually think what Austin Rivers is saying is correct. There's truth in it, but that doesn't make the NBA players better athletes. It's just different games, different sports, and different specialization. I'm a big fan and mad respect to both. This is Dr. David Chao, Pro Football Doc, Sports Injury Central, for the only place for injury analysis versus just injury reporting. Go to sicscore.com. Thanks.